Okay. I'm going to invite Sister Regina Bechtel up, who is going to help invite us into this time of prayer, reflection, speaking out, and advocating. So, Regina, thank you. If you can come up. And please join in.
Our song is Ubi Caritas, which translates to where there is charity, where there is love, God is there. So let us sing. Ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est, ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est.
Welcome, welcome to all of us here in this room, those of us joining live stream or Facebook, to this Sisters Speak Out event that's hosted by the Sisters of Charity of New York. As sisters committed to living lives of love, we gather with associates, partners in ministry, colleagues, and those who journey with us in so many ways. Called to reveal God's love to all, especially to those who are most vulnerable, and urged on by the love of Christ, today we speak out for immigrant and economic justice. We speak out against the devastating policies, actions, laws, and budget cuts that are threatening the lives of our beloved, of people in our beloved United States of America and globally. And to give some background to this Sisters Speak Out event, I invite Diandra Garcia to the podium now, and she is the PJIC office Program and Advocacy Coordinator. Thank you, Diandra.
Thank you, Sister Carol. Like Sister Carol said, I'm Diandra Garcia-Heredia. You can call me Dee, and I work for the Peace, Justice, and Integrity of Creation Office. That's the PJIC office of the Sisters of Charity of New York. And so why are we here today? We are here for the Sisters Speak Out movement. Today, over 50 congregations of women religious gathered nationally in Washington, D.C. at 10:30 a.m., and we are some of those congregations that are meeting regionally at this time. We join this movement to raise a united, faith-filled voice for immigrant justice and a just economy. Rooted in prayer and gospel values, we speak out against harmful budget cuts to vital programs like Medicaid, SNAP, and the child tax credit that would hurt our most vulnerable neighbors. We cannot remain silent any longer. This is one of many movements. Our Catholic faith compels us to act boldly for justice, love, and human dignity. Thank you.
This is not on the program, but this is who we are today. Holy troublemakers, probably the only kind of holy some of us will ever be. Just like to start with a gathering prayer. Spirit of the living God, a God of love and compassion, may we heed the late Pope Francis' invitation to rediscover the importance of the heart, the center of the human, which calls us to act from our true selves with integrity, forging bonds of respect and dignity as we work for the common good. We speak out today for a rediscovery of a wise and listening heart for ourselves, politicians, lawmakers, and all those in power whose decisions impact others.
Good afternoon. I'm Sister Donna Dodge. We are living in a time that is crying out for the voice of charity. Our mission to read the signs of the time and to reveal the Father's love to all, especially to those who live in poverty, is not a poetic ideal. It is a prophetic mandate. The Constitution of the Sisters of Charity reminds us that charity impels us to promote justice, not as a nice gesture, not when it is convenient, but always. The call continues. We provide every service in our power for persons in their immediate need and to advocate changes in social, economic, and environmental systems so as to improve the lives of the most vulnerable. These are not mere suggestions. This is our call, and it is perhaps more important now than ever before. I don't have to tell you that we're living in a country where most of our leaders do not share our values. But this is not about Democrats or Republicans, liberals or conservatives. It is about gospel values. Feeding the hungry, welcoming the stranger, sheltering the homeless, and defending the dignity of every person, values that are under threat in ways that are sobering, frightening, and real. In a few minutes, you will hear from others about how those we serve in some of the ministries are being and will continue to be affected by governmental decisions. Know that all our ministries will be affected in some way. Student aid at the university, housing vouchers for the poor, grants for the farm, food distributions, and the list goes on. To be honest, all of us will feel the effects. We have often spoken about being risk takers, and now is the time. So how do we respond? First, we stay informed without becoming overwhelmed, if that's possible. We speak out using the tools through the Office of Peace, Justice, and Integrity of Creation. We pray fervently, faithfully, relentlessly. And we hold fast to hope because we are an Easter people. Will there be risks? Most likely. Loss of donors? Possibly. Threats to our tax-exempt status? Perhaps. But silence has never been our legacy. Courage has. So let each of us ask, with honesty and conviction, what is mine to do now? What is mine to do now? Then, like Elizabeth Seton, let us only do our best and leave the rest to our dear God. And we say, amen. And now I invite Sister Kathy Byrnes.
Thank you, Sister Donna. Let me begin with the salient message from Jesus in the Gospel. I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me to drink. As often as you did this to the least of these, you did it to me. Almost 500,000 people in the Bronx face food insecurity, about 25%, the highest in the city. POTS, part of the solution, since 1982, has exponentially expanded since their humble beginnings, now with 3 sites to address food insecurity and a multitude of other issues that assist folks to achieve long-term stability. The decreasing federal funding is devastating the 15,000 POTS families it annually serves. The 3 million meals from the dining room and its self-serve pantry each year of well-balanced, nutritious food now is in jeopardy due to the inhumane, immoral, hatchet cuts to families on the margins. Almost $1 million has been cut from the POTS budget. 20% of food money has been cut. Food is a human right. Access to food draws people to come to POTS and strengthen them further on their road to economic stability. One example is a woman named Maria. She was in an unstable situation. She decided to take in her special needs younger brother into her apartment. He was about 9 years old, and began to care for him. Her goal was to provide a better future for him. When the pandemic hit, she had to quit her job after 14 years, since he was not able to attend school nor be by himself. They eventually landed up in the shelter. Maria felt not being seen as a human in the shelter. It was not easy for her, neither was it for her brother. Her brother couldn't sleep and found it most difficult. Eventually, Maria found her way to POTS and received services that were entitled to her. And eventually, POTS helped her sign a lease to live in their own place again. Maria now feels worry-free to focus on herself and her brother. And I'm going to end with one quote done about 60 years ago, and is very appropriate for today, by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Every gun that is made, every warship that is launched, every rocket that is fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. Aren't we better than this? Only you and I can answer this in our own hearts. And now I introduce Barbara Burke.
Good afternoon. We gather here today with a sense of urgency. The United States Senate is prepared to vote on the President's budget reconciliation bill that, if approved, will have devastating consequences for our most vulnerable and marginalized neighbors. I speak to you in my capacity as a pro bono advocate for the residents of our DOCS program. The DOCS program provides transitional housing for college students who are facing housing insecurity and homelessness. A little over a year ago, the Sisters of Charity of New York entered into a partnership with DePaul, USA, by opening one of their convents, Rosary Hall, to 7 homeless college students. Rosary Hall has been a lifeline for these residents, and they are thriving. One resident is studying nursing, some want to be teachers, another a social worker, and yet another a lawyer. Every one of our DOC's residents receives federally funded SNAP benefits. Every one of them has access to Medicaid expansion health insurance. Because our residents have been cut off from their families, they do not have the benefit of health coverage under their parents. Medicaid is their only option. Many also receive federally funded transportation reduction cards. This enables them to get back and forth to work, a requirement for being in the DOCS program. And of course, each resident receives the support of federally subsidized student loans. Any reduction in these federal subsidies will not only gut the quality of life at the DOCS program, but it will make it nearly impossible for these residents to continue to study and thrive. As an example, each Rosary Hall resident receives about $180 a month in SNAP benefits, about $6 a day. This critical benefit enables them to buy nutritious food. The president's budget proposes to cut SNAP by $300 billion. I have no doubt that college students will be the first ones on the chopping block. Our DOCS residents at Rosary Hall are incredibly resilient, yet they are also vulnerable. Nutritious food, the ability to go to a gynecologist, these are not partisan issues. They are gospel mandates, moral imperatives. For over 200 years, the Sisters of Charity of New York have responded to the Vincentian question, what needs to be done? And in their response, the sisters have developed programs in the poorest cities in New York, and they continue to flourish. They have built housing that is dignified and livable and a model for others in that space, and they continue to build. These programs only succeeded because there was a vision, a refusal to give up, a willingness to not give in to those who say no, and a willingness to speak out. Here today, we are asked that same Vincentian question. May our response be guided by the hopes and dreams of the residents of Rosary Hall, and may our efforts not fail them. Thank you, and I welcome Sister Karen.
Thank you, Barbara. The pressing issue that I will address is health care. I've been a nurse for all of my life and used my talents in different ministries. The field is vast and time is limited, so I focus on vaccines, nutrition, and insurance for people on the margins, known in New York State as Medicaid. In California, the similar program is Medi-Cal, so from state to state that varies. I found the details in the budget reconciliation bill very concerning, particularly the fact that the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, is committed to keep the senators working toward passage of the bill even into the July 4th recess. That is going to be a rushed and very quick process. Proposed are lower taxes, decrease or increase spending for federal programs, and increasing the debt limit for the United States. Now, no country can continue to go on with mounting debt. and a bankrupt USA won't help anyone. Well, some things that got my attention regarding vaccines, nutrition, and Medicaid are changing federal support for SNAP program. Currently, like Medicaid, SNAP is funded 50% by federal dollars sent to each state, and the state pays the other 50%. Proposed now is the federal payment being reduced to 25%, leaving the states responsible, if we want to continue no changes, to provide 75% of the cost of that program. There will also be work requirements for recipients aged 17 to 65. Currently, that age is 15 to 60. And the SNAP program extends the goal of the original WIC program that had been providing nutrition assistance for women, pregnant women, and infant children. In recent years, with the growing hunger of young children, the SNAP program was added to help young children, and it has resulted in better health for the children and better educational performance. That could change depending on the Senate action. Medicaid insurance coverage stands to be restricted in several ways. This is almost unbelievable. There are frequent reporting requirements by states of the Social Security number of enrollees in Medicaid. Monthly, by 2030, CMS, which is the Center for Medical Services at the federal level, will report to other states if one is duplicately enrolled in 2 states. By 2028, states will be required at least quarterly to check the death master to see if Medicaid enrollees are deceased. By 2026, there must be review of eligibility for Medicaid every 6 months. Short of calling this harassment, this kind of reporting requirements will cause states to spend enormous amounts of money on systems and salaries for staff to monitor enrollment and eligibility. There is little doubt that migrants and anyone without an address will be excluded from any medical insurance. What will become of these people and the hospitals and medical personnel who care for them today? Federal payment will be reduced by 10% to any state that won't report those determined to be unlawfully residing in the United States. So there are penalties for not reporting this way. There is no mention of medical needs for different locations, spread of untreated contagious diseases, or adequate numbers of professional caregivers based on population. Today, Medicaid provides for children with special needs, elderly residential care, adults with disabilities, mental health services, prescription medicines, chronic kidney disease treatment, including dialysis, addiction recovery programs. It does a lot for many. And finally, a message about vaccines. This bill proposes cutting back enormously on scientific grant support for institutions of higher education, where research results over 100 years and more have provided the world community with the safeguards of vaccines. In our lifetime, perhaps hundreds of millions of us have benefited from vaccine for polio, measles, mumps, rubella, diphtheria, tetanus, whooping cough, hepatitis B, influenza, pneumonia, herpes causing shingles, COVID, and now RSV. But Today, all vaccine advisory council members at the National Institutes for Health have been removed, and one emergency medicine doctor has taken their place. He is all about natural curative ways to treat these serious illnesses. In 2000, there was one disease that was declared to be wiped out from human illness, and that was cowpox, that had been hundreds of years in the fight with vaccines. Other diseases at that time were growing far less prevalent in the human community. As recently as this past Sunday, June 22nd, New York Times, on the front page, there is a story that details the growing number of terribly sick children and adults in Texas and North Dakota who are not vaccinated against measles. That number will increase over time without vaccinations. And there is no medical factual proof that any vaccines cause long-term illnesses or autism. That story has never been substantiated. In the late 1990s, I learned from an expert, there was one doctor who published an article in The Lancet, which is a very prestigious medical journal in the United Kingdom. And he claimed that there was some damage that resulted from a vaccine. Years later, doctors flew to write letters to the editor all over the world. And years later, The Lancet pulled that story from their archive. So there is no factual basis for what we're being told about the dangers of vaccines. Marginal populations, including low-paid workers, will bear the brunt of these changes. Given our need, those of us right here in this room and listening in, for medical care and nutrition supplementation, we are all in the vulnerable category. So my suggestion is choose just one of these issues and email Senators Schumer and Gillibrand today. Thank you. And now I introduce to you James Butler, affectionately known to us as JB. Come forward.
Good afternoon. I'm James Butler, and I work with Sisters of Charity, Life Experience, and Faith Sharing Associates, and we address the needs of those who are street homeless, shelter homeless, and anybody who have challenges within their community. I just want to say that with budget cuts that are stemming all over the nation, will have an effect on those here in New York City. And from personal experiences and communication with our ministry participants, they're feeling it too, because some of the services that they provide in the shelter are being dwindling out and phasing out in different forms and fashions. But I just thank Sisters of Charity. I thank our networking ministries that provide us with support and resources to carry on our mission, to keep the doors open and to address the needs of those who are challenged in so many ways. And also, we would like to, I'd just like to share, a story where I remember when I was homeless too, and I didn't know where life experience and faith sharing was, and when I did stumble across them, I was impressed, and I said, well, you know what, this is a place we can call home, because one of our major things that we look at when somebody comes through the door is you're homeless, but you're not helpless, and if there's something that you need, we can address it. And I had a personal experience with one of my friends, and I remember Well, they're a dear friend to me now, but when I first met them, he didn't know what to do. All he wanted to know is how can he get housing. I'm a housing coordinator there. And he was looking for a job, and he was just looking for a place where he can have some hope. And we provided that. And today, you know, he has a house, he has an apartment, he has gotten a job, and he has a network of friends that he can call anytime when he needs help or we have a challenge. And that's one of the most important things that I feel that I'm a part of, and also that Sisters of Charity helped me to develop in my everyday living and in my lifestyle, to have the faith, to give hope, to don't look down on anybody, just to pull them up. You know, I can always look down, but I have to remember that I have to pull them up too, because I remember, there go I. When I was there, you know, God came through and he gave me an angel in my life. And so today we ask the world, you know, to be mindful, have compassion for others who are less fortunate. And with that, I ask my friend, Sister Virginia, to come on up.
Thank you, James. We're going to take a trip south. For over 16 years, the Barbara Ford Peacebuilding Center has been a beacon of hope and transformation in Quiché and the other parts of Guatemala. Founded to continue the legacy of the Sisters of Charity and their 55 years of service there, the center has faithfully lived out the mission to reach out with love and compassion to the most vulnerable, particularly the Mayan indigenous people, survivors of a 36-year genocide declared by the United Nations, and which gave systemic exclusion for them. The Barbara Ford Peace Center has walked hand in hand with communities, helping to build a future grounded in justice and peace. Thousands of women, men, and families have found healing through our mental health programs, emerging from renewed strength and dignity. And these initiatives in entrepreneurship, leadership development, and education have empowered local communities to take charge of their futures and sow the seeds of a long-term sustainability. Despite the devastating setback for the past 6 months that have been going on, including for us, Barbara Ford Peace Center, the loss of $4 million from a USAID grant that was actively transforming over 20 Mayan community organizations, we, the Barbara Ford Peacebuilding Center, remain steadfast. These organizations were already making significant strides towards strengthening their people and communities, and their work will not be forgotten, and they continue. At the Barbara Ford Peacebuilding Center, we move forward with even greater determination. We continue to support spiritual, emotional, and communal healing. We are invested in programs for better education, resilient community structures, and sustainable futures. We believe deeply in the resilience of the Mayan people. It is their courage, wisdom, and hope that inspire us each day and will continue to lead the way toward peace, healing, and justice. I would now like to speak to you on a very intimate theme that comes from my family of origin. I want to share with you about my nephew's Sean's child, who just graduated from high school 2 weeks ago. It had been almost 8 years since I had been with my family, and the experience and the transformation of my nephew's child was unbeknown to me. Back then, I saw this child as very timid, unable, and unwilling to share, and honestly, I saw him very sad. My nephew's child lived in a world of art and creativity. You would think this child was happy, but something told me back then that this child was not. 2 weeks ago, I went to my nephew's child's high school graduation. Note, I'm not saying child. Please pay attention to that. What an incredible experience I had when I met James, my nephew's son, formerly his daughter, Judy. James was so relaxed, happy, and couldn't wait to share with me his love for art, his acceptance in art school here in the United States, and his decision to study in South Korea. James has already begun to study Korea and plans on going with his father this August to begin his studies. Why am I sharing this with you today? At first, my family did not accept James' decision to pursue his transition. There was much anger, accusations, and lack of listening to the one person who was speaking out in so many ways and who was hurting so much. Let's jump ahead to today. Although there are still many questions about how all this happened, what is happening is that lives have been transformed. People once closed to the identity of LGBTQ are now talking to each other. A father has discovered a new way to share life with his son, James. In honor of Pride Week here in New York City, and as we gather for Sisters of Charity Speak Out, a day of action for justice and human dignity, I want to take a moment to read a beautiful statement originally shared by the Sisters of Charity of New York on March 31st, Transgender Day of Visibility. I offer this in support of my trans nephew and to all who make up the T in the LGBTQ. Today, on Sisters Speak Out, we also stand in solidarity with our transgender siblings. In a time when political forces may seek to silence and erase marginalized voices, we affirm that every person is cherished, every identity celebrated, and every life valued. We are guided by the belief that our hearts are given to love one another. With courage and resilience, transgender individuals remind us of the strength found in living authenticity, inspiring us to create spaces of respect, justice, and inclusion. Let us unite in compassion and action, ensuring that every person, regardless of gender identity, experiences the dignity, safety, and love they deserve. Happy Pride. And I would like to invite back Dee, who will continue to share with us.
Thank you, Sister Jeannie. So what do we do with all this? I'm here to speak about the calls to action. So as Catholics, we are called to stand with the marginalized, especially the immigrants, and to raise our voices for justice and compassion. That's why we're asking you to join Justice for Immigrants. That's a campaign led by our Catholic community to take action, urge Congress to pass just, humane, and immigration laws that reflect our values of compassion, family unity, and human dignity. It only takes a minute to make your voice heard. So for those watching, you can go to justiceforimmigrants.org. There are handouts here if you're joining us in person in the back table with more resources. And if you have questions about these issues that Justice for Immigrant advocates for, you can reach out to Todd Scribner. He's from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops at tscribner@usccb.org. He's a great resource. We also partner with Network Lobby, the New York Advocates Network Lobby. Catherine Gillette, she's our New York Advocates Grassroots Mobilization Organizer. She just gave us word that the Hill says calls have dropped. So not many calls have been coming in to advocate for these issues. So now is the time. We encourage you all to keep calling, even if you believe your lawmakers are already proponents, even if you think they're advocates. You need to make your voices heard. We all do. And just two more important things. We have two save the dates that we want to make you all aware of. The next No King's Day is happening July 17th, National Day of Action and Solidarity for Immigrant Justice and Against Abuses of Power. Again, July 17th, and you can visit nokings.org for more information. There's also 100 days of prayer, fasting, and advocacy, another handout you can find in the back table. Again, it's the 100 Days of Prayer, Fasting, and Advocacy. That is sponsored by LCWR, the Leadership Conference of Women Religious. We're saving the date for August 28th, which is the Sisters of Charity celebration of Mother Seton's birthday, August 28th. And we will join religious across the USA by prayer, fasting, and advocacy for a country that aligns with our values and gospel truth. So let us be the voice of the voiceless, because that's what love looks like in public, right? Thank you. God bless, and let's take action together.
Now for our closing blessing. Let us go forth knowing God's unconditional love. For it is in that love that we become capable of forging bonds, of recognizing the dignity of each human being, and of working together to care for our common home. So let us go forth now to love in prayer, in thought, in word, and in deed.
And again, we join in a song of hope and courage and love. Ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est, ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi